was like, wow, Rabbi Kaplan has not changed.
I know, that's my problem.
Clock is still broken.
Getting younger.
Yes.
You know what they say, Doc?
What?
I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. Okay. Yesh
You
Levar.
guys don't know what that reference
He was Jewish.
is. Yeah.
Okay. The last thing we saw was that there's a question in the pasuk. Why is the word Adam used in the pasuk? We learned in the first ois that the Iker Gilui of Elokus in Torah is Karbonis. It's really quite astounding. And that can be explained based on that which the Rebbe Shab says in the Hemshech Samach Beis, but it's after the Hemshech of Chodesh, as we said, Adam Ki Yakriv, Parshas Vayikra. And I'm going to start from the beginning of the Ois, because we only read a couple of lines just to see where we were going. V'yesh levar zeh al pi ma shekosav Admar nishmas Eden b'Leilula de Beis Nisan b'Maamar Dibur Mascha Adam Ki Yakriv. The Lechaura, first glance. Havi lei lemeimar. It should have said, Ki sakrivu, when you sacrifice. Without the word, Mibli lahazkir mihu makriv, Adam. Again, we talked yesterday about what Rashi says about that. Umevi b'maimer, and the Rebbe Shab brings in the Maimer a Maimer Zoyar and a Medrash. The Isa b'Zoyar, Zakayin Inun, there's Zeicha Yisrael, Tekucha Brichu Kara Loin Adam. That the Kodesh Baruch who called them Adam. Adam Ki Yakudim became, and that's our pasuk. Vai Taima Kara Loin Adam. So why did he call them Adam? Mishum Dechsiva Tem Hadveikim B'Vaya Lokechem. Because it says that you cling to a Vaya Lokechem. So it got to do with Adam. Okay, so that's not so clear in the Zohar. I mean, it doesn't mention Adam in the pasuk that's quoted to try to explain why Am Yisrael is so zeicher to be called Adam. And we're zeicher to be called Adam because we cling to the Eibush. So one of the explanations brought in Chassidus is that Adam is Gematria Ma, which is a very powerful level of godly reality based on different ways of writing Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? There's different ways of writing. If you write what's called B'milui, if you write out a letter B'milui, that means you write out the letter. That means Yud is Yud Vav Dalet, because that's how you would spell Yud. And Hey, well, that's an interesting thing. How's Hey spelled? So Hey can be spelled three ways: Hey Yud, Hey, or Hey Aleph. Vav could be spelled Vav Vav, Vav Yud Vav, or Vav Aleph Vav. And then Hey again. So if you spell Yud Kei Vav Kei, but what's called Milui Alephin, with the filling in letters being Aleph, then it's Yud, and then Hey Aleph, Vav Aleph Vav, Hey Aleph, and that's Gematria Adam, Ma. Right? If you do it with Hey, so then it's Gematria Behema, Ba. Another name of that relates to Malchus, Adam and Behema. Right? Okay, so Atem Hadveikim B'Vaya Lokechem, that your name Adam is actually something that is a direct expression of godly reality. And we'll see that aspect of us that's essential. We'll see the Rebbe is going to explain that aspect of us which is essentially connected to the Eibush. So that's Adam. V'alpizem Mevar Ma'kos of Adam Ki Yakriv. And based on this, it explains why it says Adam Ki Yakriv. Do you need a copy? Yeah, okay. It's concealed. V'alpizem Mevar Ma'kos of Adam Ki Yakriv. Adam Dafka. Why? What gives you and I the ability to take physical reality and elevate it to a state of godliness? Adam. that aspect of us that is essentially connected to the Eibishter. Were we to be the same as that physical object, then we couldn't possibly elevate that physical object, because how can something elevate itself beyond what it is? The prisoner can't free himself. He's a prisoner. He can't get out of jail. He's in jail. Who can free him? Someone who's not in jail. So who can elevate physical reality? Something that is beyond physical reality. And that's the koyach of Adam that's in every one of us. That aspect of us that is powerfully connected to the Eibishter. Adam. Gematria Ma. That aspect of us that is godly. Valpize, and the Rebbe is going to explain that more. Valpize mavar mashkot of Adam kiyakri Adam davka. Kiyakayach. The power. Sheyesh b'Yisrael lahakriv karbanos. Now look at footnote 13. It's very, very interesting. But Sarach Ian, to look into, try to understand, beer, the explanation of Korbanos Shel Goyim. How can non-Jews bring a korban? Which they can. And the Rebbe says, "Ve'ein kan makom." This is not the place to discuss this, but the Rebbe throws out. So if the koyach, the Zohar says, the ability of you and I to bring a korban, the ability of you and I to elevate physical reality comes from a place in us that doesn't exist in non-Jews. So then, interesting question. So then, how a non-Jew can also elevate physical reality? So where does that come from? So the Rebbe says, "Ein kana makom." Now, this is not the place to discuss. It's discussing something else. Yeah.
How does that relate to us saying that physical reality wasn't really able to be elevated from Matan Torah? Is some kind of qualitative difference, or
The physical objects, very good question. The physical objects that we used in order to do mitzvahs weren't elevated by virtue of the fact that we used them. The person doing the action was elevated, but not the physical object. Now, what about the karbonos that the Aves brought? Probably they were elevated. Right? The animal that was brought, mitzvahs is one thing, korban is another thing. Is korban, you're talking elevating the animal, right? You're burning it up. It could very well be that the korbanos of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were elevated. But, yeah, because they're the source of that neshama. Exactly how the neshama works before Matan Torah is also an interesting question. Right? But when we say Adam, so Adam does not refer to humankind. Ha-Adam refers to humankind. Adam refers to Yidden. Atem kruyim Adam. Right? So Ha-Adam is humankind in general. Right? Not just mankind, humankind. Ki ha-koyach sheyesh b'Yisrael lahakriv karbanos hu lefi shem bechinas Adam. Shem devukim b'kadosh Baruch. Oh, okay, so that makes sense. That I'm able to elevate something by virtue of the fact that I'm transcendent of that thing, so I can bring it up to a higher level. Umamshich b'maimra, and the Rebbe Rashab continues in the Maimra. Shal derech zeh yisa b'medrash. There's something similar in the Medrash. Dezeh shekadosh Baruch Hu tzivos Yisrael. That which the Jewish people commanded. That which HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded the Jewish people lahakriv karbanos, to sacrifice karbanos, hu mipnei shem devukim li, because they are connected to me, clinging to me. Now, you'd think it would bring the same pasuk, but it doesn't bring the same pasuk. Hu dechsiv ki kasher yidbak ha'ezer el masnei ish, as the belt is connected to the masnei is usually loins of a person, right? Like the belt is connected to the person himself. So that's a very interesting mashal. The belt is not the person. Belt's separate from the person, connected to the person. It's not the person. That's very different than Atem hadvekim b'avaya lokechem. Atem hadvekim, that seems to be that we're on a certain level one with the Kodesh Baruch. And here the belt is not one with the person. The belt is connected to the person and very powerfully connected to the person, but not the person. No. So the Rebbe explains the difference. Two different psukim, one the Zayar and one the Medrash. Now, without Chassidus, I haven't got a clue how in the world anybody ever explained this. So you'll see what Chassidus will say. And it's very simple. A few lines, absolutely astounding idea. Without Chassidus. You just say, okay, the Zohar says like this, and the Medrash says like this, and they're saying the same thing. No, they're saying something that's subtly different. Umavar ba Maamar. The Rebbe Shab explains in the Maamar. Sheba Medrash Medaber, let's just read and then we'll come back and explain, because it's going to talk about two different levels of Devekus. Sheba Medrash Medaber, the Medrash speaking, Be'inyan ha-Devekus de Kalim. The Devekus of the level of Kalim. Vessels. Well, again, we'll come back to that. Obviously, there's a level of Devekus of the level of Or, which is the other state of reality. Shakalim heim bebechinas mitzias, that the Kalim have an existence, vayikud va'dvekus shelahem, and this unity and clinging of them, einu yichud atzmi, is not an essential oneness. No, let's see. Einu yichud atzmi, ukemei, I mean, if you're talking about Kalim, you're talking about mamale by definition, but we're going to be talking about Or that's also Or mamale. Right? Einu yichud atzmi, ukemei kasher yidbaka ezer, just like the belt clings, it's connected. Sha'ezer, the belt, who metzias la'atzmi, has its own existence. Ela shadovak la'adam, that is connected to the person. So that's the Medrash. We're going to come back to this. Ubezayar medaber be'inyan advekus de'aros. And the Zayar is talking about a different level. A level of Devekus Baros. Light. The oneness of light with its source in the Eibishter himself. Shad Devekus vayichud de'aros hu yichud atzmi is an essential oneness. That Or and its source are one. Right? Sunlight and sun. Now, we often differentiate between sunlight and sun in order to appreciate the difference between etzim and Or. Okay, when we bring in sun as a mushal. That's true. But that being said, the Or is mi'ein ha'ma'or, the Or is like its source, it's indistinguishable from its source, right? Such that you'll say, and this is not a ridiculous statement to say, boy, the sun is bright today. The sun is hot today. And you don't feel the need to differentiate between the sun and the sunlight, because for all intents and purposes, there's no differentiation. Now, if I want to be serious about it, I have to realize that there's a difference between the sun and the light that emanates from the sun. Okay, that's true. But the fact that sunlight and sun are so powerfully connected is a level of yichud atzmi, an essential oneness. On a certain level, I mean, again, sometimes in the context of trying to understand something, the mushal is brought that imagine if the sun weren't to shine. Okay, we say that it'd still be a sun. Fine. But within the reality of the sun's existence, sun and sunlight, they're one and the same and completely and totally dependent on each other. If it weren't for sunlight, there's no sun. Again, you can imagine theoretically that there's sun without light, but actually, there's no light. What does that mean? Right now, there's no sun here, right? Yeah, I mean, he might be somewhere else. I mean, he's on the other side of this ball that we're hanging on. Okay, we're saying, but right now, there's no sun here. Okay, why? How do you know? There's no sunlight, so there's no sun. Right? Because if there's sun, there's sunlight, and if there's light, there's sun. And those two go together in an incredibly powerful way. And that's why we say that the Or is me'ein ha'ma'or. It's like its source, and indivisible from its source. Right? You can't possibly separate light from its source. Once you separate light from its source, it ceases to exist. Can you separate a belt from the person around whom it's now attached? Of course. has its own metzius. It happens to right now be in a state of unity, but it has its own metzius, so that's not a yichud atzmi. Yichud atzmi is this thing doesn't have any metzius unless it's connected to whatever it is that it's one with. Okay, that's light and sun, certainly the light. Right? So the light is one with its source and it doesn't exist if it's disconnected from its source. It has no metzius inside itself. Simply a revelation of the metzius of something else. That's or. That's called a yichud atzmi, an essential unity. A state of reality that can't be anything but unified. There is no other state. By a belt, that mushal, there's another state. The belt could be in the drawer. Okay. That's the zayah. V'lochein maybe a kosev. Therefore, the pasuk brings vatemed veikim b'vayalekechem, the veikus mamish, absolute connection. The pasuk vatemed veikim, we're one with, such that Adam is gematria ma, which is an expression of godly reality. Chochmah. Okay. So what the Rebbe just said, the Rebbe said amazing things. He's talking about two different levels of Tzilus. We've talked about this. We've learned this. So that's why we can learn it again and not get completely lost. There's two different levels of reality in Tzilus. There's Or and Kli. Now, both of them are states of godliness, of Davuk Bashem. Right? But there's a state of godliness where the thing has metzius, but that metzius is bottle, and there's a state of godliness where the thing basically has no metzius. I mean, it is just one with God. So in Atzilus, what aspect of Atzilus is one with the Eibishter? The Or of Atzilus. Or is the Eibishter. It's Kadosh Baruch. The Kalim, the Chiddush of the Kalim in Atzilus, and again, we've talked about this. Kalim generally are the revelation of Zulat, something else, the other. Kalim allow for the revelation of multiplicity. Okay, so now interestingly enough, in Atzilus they also do that. What do the Kalim allow for the revelation of in Atzilus? What's revealed in Atzilus?
Sphere.
10 spheres. Diuk. 10. Not one. That's a pretty interesting thing, because this is the Eibishter. This is Kadosh Baruch Hu. How can he be 10? Hashem Echad. What do you mean Hashem 10? That's blasphemy. It's kfira. Well, in what level is the Eibishter 10? On the level of the Kalim. It's not the Or. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't an Or of Chokhmah and an Or of Bina and an Or of Chesed and an Or of... Okay, that's true. But that's all conceptual until it comes into a realized state and a revealed state. And where does that all become revealed? In Atzilus. Where those different aspects of godly reality come into a state of revelation, we call them 10 spheres. And what is it that allows for that? What allows for that is called Kalim. And what's the Kli? So the Kli mitzad echad has its own metzius. It has a metzius. Right? I mean, if you want to, in Atzilus, we wouldn't really talk about its own metzius, but it has a metzius. It has an existence as a Kli, as a reality. Chesed, Gvura, there's a reality called Chesed. There's a reality called Gvura. The reality of Chesed and the reality of Gvura in Atzilus is godly Chesed and godly Gvura, so it's completely bottled to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's why Atzilus is called what level of Bittul? Bittul, the Metzius. Eilam Abriya is a Yesh. There's created reality in Eilam Abriya. There's something that's not God. It's created. It's not creator, it's created. It only exists by virtue of the fact that God exists. It's not separate from Him in any way, shape, or form. That being said, it's not the Eibishter. It's not a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Chesed of Atzilus is the Eibishter. It's a Kadosh Baruch Hu's Chesed. The Midah of Chesed and Bria is an expression of the notion of Chesed in created reality. The source of Chesed is the Eibishter's Chesed. But this isn't the Eibishter's Chesed. This is an angel's Chesed. This is Chesed as it's expressed within the context of a created being. But what? That being is completely bottled. That being has no interest whatsoever in its own expression. All it sees itself as is a kli to reveal godliness. Okay, so it's a yesh, it's created reality, but it's completely bottled. That's called bittul yesh. I experience my own existence, and I experience on a certain level the separateness of my own existence, but I realize that existence is all about a Kadosh Baruch Hu, has nothing to do with me. That's complete and total bittul, and that's an angel. An angel has no ratzon outside of the ratzon of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's simply an expression of the ratzon of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What angels do, these little acts of shlichus, the Kadosh Baruch Hu sends them around to do things. They're just expressions of His will. Okay, they don't have any reality outside of that. Complete and total bittul. But they're a yesh. They're not the Eibishter. They're a created reality. Eilam Atzilus has a metzias, that kalim, have a metzias, have an existence as a reality called chesed. But their existence is an existence of bittul because it's godly chesed. It's not a yesh, it's not created reality, it's still godly reality. But there's a certain, you can't call it separateness, but there's a certain existence of some sort of unique reality called chesed, called gvura, called tiferes, called malchus. But what are those realities in Atzilus? Completely and totally one with God. But it's not a yichud atzmi, like the or, because the or can't exist separate from the Eibishter. Can chesed exist in a way that it's not the Eibishter? Yeah. Just go down one more world and you'll find chesed that's not the Eibishter. It's now created chesed. Can light, now that's not the kli, can light exist without a connection to its source? No, no such thing. Go down another world. Light's still connected to its source, and if it's not, there's no light. It ceases to exist. Right? Now, so does the chesed. If there's no light, but that's because the source of the existence of the light is that chesed. But of the chesed is that light. But okay, but in Atzilus, there's two different states of reality. There's Oros and Kalim. Okay, so the Zohar talks about the fact that which gives you and I the ability to elevate physical reality is that we're one with the Eibishter like the Oros of Atzilus. We're one with the Eibishter like is one with its source, like light is one with its source. What the Rebbe calls a yichud atzmi, an essential unity. Okay, wow. And therefore I'm so transcendent of that physical reality, I can elevate it up to a state beyond what it is. The Medrash says that which gives you and I the ability to elevate the korban is because we're like the belt around the waist. We're connected very, very powerfully to godliness. It's not a yichud atzmi, but it's a very powerful unity, a very powerful connection. And that, the Rebbe says, that's like the connection of the kelim of Atzilus to the Eibishter, as opposed to the of Atzilus, to the level beyond. The of Atzilus, level one, is one and the same thing. The kelim has its own metzias, but it's a metzias of bittul. It's the Eibishter. It's the Eibishter's chesed. There's chesed, which is something unique and specific. Okay, and we see this relative to a kli, the bittul of a kli. We've talked about this when we talked about shiur sakelim. We talked about this, but this is used in, so this is a mashal for many, many things. So, this kli that I've got here. So were someone to take this kli and walk outside on Shabbos, there's a Mishnah in Masechah Shabbos, right? Always learn the truth from Nigla, right? If you were to take this kli and walk outside on Shabbos, you'd be over an Isser Deraisa of Hotza'ah. It's a machlekes whether it's a lav or an Isser Misa, right? It's a disagreement regarding Hotza'ah. Okay, but it's definitely Asir Torah, that's absolutely clear. right? So if a person were to walk outside with this, he would be over an Isser Deraisa of taking something from the Reshus Yachid into the Reshus Rabbi, from the private domain into the public domain. Okay, so now let's say in this, well, let's take a second example that the Medrash brings. What if he walked out with food less than a shiur? Less than, and the shiur for Hilchos Shabbos is a gerger, so date. Okay, but let's say he walks out with a split pea. Right? He has one split pea. Right? You ever see a split pea? Those, hard things put it in your mother's cupboard and you can make good pea soup with them. Okay, a split pea. So he walks outside, and he means to carry this out. He has this split pea that he's very excited to put down on the bench outside in the Reshus Rabbi.
Wow.
Right? Because he's a spy. And he's going to put the split pea on the bench, and then the other guy's going to come along and go, the split pea is on the bench. It's about to begin. And all sorts of amazing things happen, right? Because of that split pea on the bench. So you want to take that split pea out on Shabbos and put it on the bench, right? It's not an Isser Deraisa. Why not? Well, because it's not a shiur of food, and in order to carry something out on Shabbos, you have to be carrying out something that has a measure that is considered something of real existence, right? It's also derabanan, right? But it's mutter deraisa. It's what's called in Hilchos Shabbos pater aval aser. There's three categories in Hilchos Shabbos. Chayiv, that means you are over an Isser Deraisa and you're chayiv misa if all things go the way they're not supposed to go, right? Chayiv. Pater means you're not obligated the death penalty because you did not transgress an Isser Shabbos, but it's osir midrabanan. Not allowed to do this, right? But it's not it's not osir deraisa. It's osir drabanan. That's called pater aval osir. And then there's mutter, right? Something's absolutely mutter, right? It's permitted. Okay. So what this guy did was pater aval osir, but it's mutter minatara. There's no Isser Deraisa to take that half pea and put it out on the bench. Why? Because there's no measure. Okay, that's the second scenario in the Mishnah. The third scenario in the Mishnah is what if he puts the split pea on the plate? Now the plate, let's say, it says an Isser Misa. The plate was an Isser Misa when he walked outside, right? Alone. Now he puts more on the plate. He puts a split pea on the plate, and he walks out with the plate. Pater af ala kli. He's pater even for taking the plate outside. Shehi tfeilaloi. That it's tuffle to what's in it. What's a kli all about? A kli is all about what's in it. A kli is bottled to what's in it. Right? So what's this? Coffee. What am I holding in my hand? Coffee. Right? Is that a reasonable thing to say that I'm holding coffee in my hand? You ever try to hold coffee in your hand? Hard to hold coffee in your hand, right? I mean, liquid. The liquid version of coffee. Rather hard to hold the liquid version of coffee in your hand, right? So how do you hold coffee in your hand?
Put it in a cup.
You put it in a cup. But what am I holding in my hand? Coffee. No, I'm holding coffee in my hand. Yes, I'm holding the cup. So there's no question I'm holding the cup. But that's not really what I'm interested in any way, shape, or form. This cup is completely bottled to the coffee in it. And as a matter of fact, I hate to let this cup know what his future holds. But what is going to happen to this cup relatively soon? He will be disposed of. Why? What?
It's tough. It's secondary.
No.
It was used to accomplish something that was outside of itself.
You guys are so conceptual here. Bottom line, why am I going to throw out this cup?
There's
no coffee in it, right? There's no coffee in it anymore. So why in the world do I need the cup? Right? Now, theoretically, I could take it down and put more coffee in it. But I only drink 1 cup a day, so I'm not going to put more coffee in it. Like, I'm done with this coffee cup. Theoretically, I could rinse it out, and when I drink water during the day, I could put the water in it. I should probably do that. I don't want to get Greta mad at me, right? Okay, so I guess I should probably do that, right? Okay, not a bad thing to do, right? So a kli is all about its shimush, its use. So it has a metzias, but it can also be in a state of bittul. When it's performing its function, the kli, for all intents and purposes, is in this interesting state of bittul, right? So even in and what do you see? Hilchos Shabbos. You didn't carry the plate outside. You carried a split pea outside. But it's in a plate. This guy was just chayav and Issa Deraisa 5 minutes ago when he carried the plate out. Right? No, he's not carrying the plate out, he's carrying the pea out. The plate's bottled to the pea. Which is it's such an amazing, that's Nigla, Mishnah and Shabbos. And that Nigla teaches us all about how Kalim work in Pneumias, that they're bottled to the Kli, to the Or, And that's of course when it's in a state of what's called Tikkun, right? When it's in a fixed state. And that's not working, right? So right now is it? It is working? No, it's not working. Not even close.
8:15.
Okay, so that's when the kli is a kli that's mitukan, and that's why Atzilus is called Eilam Tikun, and in Atzilus the kli is bottled to the or. So that level of yichud is not a yichud atzmi like the or itself, but is a state of yichud because it's still connected, very powerful. So that's the medrash. The medrash is a connection. It's such an unbelievable shot in the difference between the Zayar and the Medrash. The Zayar is a temad vekim. You are one with the Eibishter. That's Uris. The Medrash is you're like a belt around the waist. You're very powerfully connected, but you're not. It's not an essential oneness because there's a metzias to the belt. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Before Chassidus, how did anybody explain this in this Zayar and this Medrash? There's one, you just wouldn't see it. It's just, okay, fine. Yeah.
So with the plate and the pea, you said that if someone carries only one pea on a plate, then the plate is bottled to the pea, right? So it's fine then to carry.
Well, it's not fine. It's usher d'Rabbanan, not usher d'Oraisa.
So a person can't just put a pea on a plate and
No.
be like, oh, I'm going to carry my plate, but it's fine.
If you have to put a pea, if you have to carry the pea outside, you might as well just carry. If you have to carry the plate outside, for some strange reason, you have to carry the plate outside. Put a pea on it. Better be over an Issa D'Rabbanan than an Issa D'Oraisa. Okay. But why are you carrying the plate outside? But yes, an Issa D'Rabbanan. Still us. But it's an Issa D'Rabbanan, which does definitely make a difference. Right? We talked about it earlier about, Hadassah Hospital, so much of the electrical system in Hadassah Hospital is wired in such a way that any action on Shabbos is an Issa D'Rabbanan, not an Issa D'Oraisa. Okay, that's a big difference. It's still mutter in most cases, right? Because it's pikuach nefesh. Okay, beseder, but turning a light off in the equipment room is not. The guy turning the light off, he went to get a broom and he turned the light off. That's not pikuach nefesh. So just leave the light on. Okay, the guy turned the light off. Well, at least it was only an Issa D'Rabbanan, not an Issa D'Oraisa.
How did they? How did they do that?
It's what's called groma. Groma means that when you flip a switch, you close the circuit. So exactly what malacha you're doing is it's a machlokes. When electricity was invented, the Rabbanim sat down and tried to figure out whether it was mutter or osir on Shabbos. Most people think they said, it must be osir because it would make life easier, let's make it osir, and try to find how. That's stupid. That's not how halacha works. They want to know what is this stuff, and could we use it on Shabbos? Now, no one said you could, because it's either Aish, the current running through the fire, or like Aish spreads through, so the current running through the fire, or when you close the circuit, so that's binyan. You've done the patish. You've done the last action in a series of actions, like taking that little thing that the carpenter does and give the last little makkah with the patish, last little hit with the hammer, so the nail will go in to the wood and you won't see the nail, right? Then he'll take a little bit of that stuff that's the same color as the wood and cover it up. You won't even see the nail. Okay, so everybody came to some conclusion. Unfortunately, it'd be very nice to be able to use electricity on Shabbos, but that you can't use electricity on Shabbos. Okay, but now, so relative to the current, b'chlal, what am I not allowed to do? I'm not allowed to do an action that will bring about an immediate result called a malacha. But what if I do something that's innocuous? And that innocuous action causes a malacha to happen. For instance, a switch. I flip a switch, which flips another switch. Flipping one's, for me to flip a switch is mutter. I can flip a switch. You want to play around, you have a switch at home that you haven't connected to the wall, and you want to move this plastic thing up and down, you can do that all Shabbos long. I mean, you're a maniac, but I mean, that's not also on Shabbos. Might be bittul Torah, but it's not Mr. Shabbos, right? Okay? So you can do that all day long. So now what if I flip that switch, and all that happens is I cause another switch to flip. So that's an innocuous action. But that causes electricity to be turned on. That's called grum, causative. So that's an issur d'Rabbanan. Grum is d'Rabbanan. Sugis and Shas. Right? So that's a better way to wire the system. That's how they did it. I don't know exactly how that works.
The simplest example is a switch. It's actually a piece of plastic. It doesn't connect to anything. What it does do is it moves in front of an electric eye. Moves in front of an electric eye. So typically what at least the Zomad Institute has been building has been a circuit that it's an electric eye circuit, very simple. But what it does is it samples periodically as opposed to immediately. So a normal electric eye, you break the circuit, you break the electric eye, it opens the door, whatever it is. This one, you break the beam, but the circuit doesn't sample continuously. It doesn't send the beam continuously. At some point, that piece of plastic will interfere. That beam will be interrupted. It's a gram. It's a complete indirect action. All you've done is move a piece of plastic. You haven't even broken a beam.
This is how automatic doors will work? Or
No. This is how some of these systems that are used at Hadassah Hospital and used in the IDF. If you ever get a chance to go to the Zomad Institute, I strongly recommend it because it's a fascinating place to be.
Where?
The Zomad Institute.
Yeah.
In
Helper?
Yeah.
Where
He's
is
an
it?
amazing guy.
Yeah. Another thing that
He was a doctor and then became a Rosh Yeshiva, or Rosh Yeshiva and then became a doctor?
No.
Maybe Rosh Yeshiva and then became a doctor.
I don't know which one. I don't know.
I think, yeah, my wife went to medical school with him. Interesting guy.
Zomet. Z-O-M-E-T.
So if
You do tours.
if you press the switch, the light's not going to go on and off immediate. Or
Correct.
off immediately.
Right.
You have to wait for the.
Yeah, it'll be sometime afterwards, whatever the sampling time is. The other thing they do is a lot of touch screens, because when you touch a screen on your phone,
Make a circuit.
you don't make the circuit. Where's the circuit?
Not a circuit. It's
What it is it's right. It's an induction, but all it is an induction. You haven't actually made a circuit, so it's an indirect thing. And so you'll see the phones, for example, are all induction type interfaces at places like the hospitals. Those are very common, and they also do wheelchairs and all kinds of other things.
That's why some people are trying to matter sending messages on Shabbos. People who,
Yeah, that one I had a little more trouble with.
wow, right. It's a big thing in certain less than ultra-Orthodox circles in the Jewish world, mostly with kids who can't not, what do they call it? Text. Okay, so now what's this in Aveda? This is all very nice. There's these two different levels of our devekis to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So how does this express itself in Aveda? I mean, if I have a higher level of devekis, why do I need this lower level of devekis? In Atzilus, okay, so there's Aris and Kalim, and I get it. So somehow this is going to express itself. Now, this was all explaining something about our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? So, what is that? How does this express itself in Aveda? Let's see how far we can get in Gimel. Al pi zeh yesh leimar. Dezeh shebaschol sefer Kabbalah ksiv Adam ki yakriv. That which at the beginning of Sefer Kabbalah it says Adam ki yakriv, Dezeh Yisrael nikra Adam, that which Am Yisrael is called Adam hu mishum. That's because based on the Zohar Vatem Hadvekim, that you're one with the Eibishter. Shehu Hadvekus to others. That's the Dvekus of others. That's the Yichud Atzmi. Why? Who? Ki HaKayach Sheyesh B'Yisrael, the power that a Jew has, Lahakud Karbonos, to elevate physical reality. Hu be'ikr lefisha deveikusam b'kadosh Baruch Hu is essentially because their connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu b'dargas of deveikus de'oros is like this level of the deveikus of oros in Eilam Atzilus, which is a state of yichud atzmi, an essential unity with God. So a Jew is a holy thing. V'zeh she'isa b'medrash, that's the zayah. V'zeh she'isa b'medrash, the akravas karbanas kashura im dargas the deveikus de'ezu de'kelim. So then, I understand. What's this second level? And why is this second level necessary? If my connection to the Eibishter is so powerful that I'm able to elevate physical reality, and that comes from the Fematem had vaking by Vayelokechem. So then this second level of connection, which the Medrash talks about, the Medrash says that which gives us the power to elevate the Korban is dafka the second level. Well, why is that necessary? I'm on a higher level. Why do I need the intermediate level if I have the highest level? Yesh leimar. Ki ikar karbonos, who shall yodam, who kiyum ha'elam. The ikar of karbonos is that by virtue of them, the world continues to exist. The Isa Yerushalmi, amazing Yerushalmi, and again we've seen this pasuk also. Ala pasuk, the pasuk in Yeshayahu, lintayir shamayim liyisud aretz, to plant the heaven and found the earth. What is it that is the source of the planting of heaven and the founding of earth? Elor karbonos. Ki al yedei karbonos miskarmim chukei shemayim v'aretz. By virtue of the karbonos, the world continues to exist. Which is, interesting enough, it'll come up later, because Rebbe's going to talk about tefillah later, that's why you and I make sure, Chazal made sure, that when we don't bring karbonos, we do something that's similar to karbonos in place of karbonos, something that will accomplish that which karbonos accomplish in order to maintain the existence of the world, and that's why davening. Right? Tefillah b'imkem karbonos tiknum corresponds to karbonos, shachris, mincha, the eilos, the tamid shel shachar, the tamid shel bein arbaim, the morning sacrifice, the afternoon sacrifice. So the karbonos have this amazing ability to maintain the existence of the world. Elo, but shakayach hazeh, this ability of karbonos to do that, sheyesh bar karbonos, that there is in the karbonos, hu al yedei is dafka by virtue of the fact shamakri v'sa karbonos hu adam. That the one who brings the korban is Adam. Adam ki yakriv. It doesn't say ki takrivu. No, it has to be the level of Adam. It has to be an expression of the level of Adam. Dafka, because the Yid is transcendent of the Olam, he's able to bring the korban and elevate the Olam and maintain the connection of the world to its source in Elokus, to maintain the continued existence of the world. And that's Shalamayla Me'ela, because that which, again, the elevation of something has to come from something beyond it. It can't elevate itself, right? It can take itself to a slightly higher level within the context of the limitations it experiences, but it's still within the context of those limitations. We've talked about that a lot in terms of, breaking a record in the high jump, okay? I haven't transcended limitation. I've just set a new state of limitation, a new level of limitation. There's a limitation. It's now, instead of being 6 feet, it's 6 feet and a quarter inch. Okay, fine. Still a state of limitation. Okay. Whereas true transcendence would be to take the thing out of the limitation of feet and inches, which is what a korban does, the physical reality. Kediza b'zayah. The mashakos of Adam ki yakri, that which you're called Adam ki yakri, shebedalad hashemus Adam gever enosh ish, the 4 different names of people. Adam is the highest level. Adam is seichel, gever, and enosh are one who is powerful, one who overcomes difficulties. Enosh is one who succumbs to difficulties. He's weak. And ish is midas, yesh, his subjective reality. Gever is Adam is the objective reality of Seichel. Ish is the subjective reality, the yesh of midas, of emotional attributes. Gever and Enosh are the one who overcomes obstacles and the one who succumbs to obstacles. Shem Adam Mara al Madrega Achi Elyon. The name Adam instructs regarding the highest level of the expression of humankind. Dichsiv v'yivra kimasa Adam b'tzalmei. Dafka Adam b'tzalmei. Now, ha-Adam, that's all people. Hu lefi de kiyuma da almi Eloyin v'tatoin. That is because the continued existence of the almi, the worlds, Eloyin, upper, v'tatoin, and lower worlds. Who are you there, Karbanos? V'lochein. Now the Rebbe says, we'll just finish the paragraph. This is an amazing idea. Lochein gam b'avedosa shel Adam hamakriv tzarich liyeh shnei inyonim. So both of these states, the Zohar and the Medrash, the yichud of the Oris, which is the yichud atzmi, and the yichud of the Kelim, which is a yichud chazak, a very powerful yichud, but it's not a yichud atzmi. There's a metzias to the kli, but that metzias is a metzias of bittul, and it's one with its source, but it's not its source. Okay, both of those are necessary in Aveda. Why? The inyan of karbonos atzmam, the korban itself, lo yidei Avedas ha'adam, is through the Avodah Adam b'dargas ha'kelim shabay, on the level of the kelim that are in you, meaning that aspect of you and I that is connected to the Eibishter, but we also have an existence down here in El Mazah. We're down there where the korban is. If I'm not down there where the korban is, how can I elevate the korban? I have to be in two places at once. Such an unbelievable shot there. The Rebbe is saying, based on the Rebbe Shah, that what? On one hand, the reason we can elevate the korban is we're called Adam, and Adam is a level completely transcendent of the korban. If I'm so transcendent of the korban that I have nothing to do with the korban, I can't elevate the korban because I'm not anywhere where the korban is. No, I have to be there too. So there's that level of you and I, which is shaykh to the medrash. That's the idea of Adam. The fact that we can elevate the korban is because we are a metzias, but we're a metzias, meaning we live down there in the world, but we're connected powerfully to true reality, the Eibishter, and rebuttal to that. That's what allows me to bring the korban and be part of the world of the korban. What allows me to elevate the korban to the highest level? That other aspect of you and I, which is the completely and totally transcendent level of you and I. So mitzad echad I have to be in the world, mitzad sheni I have to be out of the world. The Baal Shem Tov talks about that all the time. That his hope for all of us is that we should be in Welt and Eiswelt simultaneously. We should be in the world and out of the world at the same time. We should be able to buy tomatoes in the shuk and be aware of God's unity simultaneously. Moshe, yeah, sure. In psik beineim, in fact. Right? So the level that allows us to be involved in the korban is the level of Kalim. The dargas a Kalim Shabbat. The Zesha Karbanas Haim Kiyuma the Alma, that which the Karbanas are the existence of the world, Mikol Hasugim, that's Cham Da'ila. Right? Which is really fascinating. That why is the korban so important for the existence of the world? So what's a korban? So korban contains within it all four levels of physical reality. What are the four levels of physical reality? Doimen, mineral life. Semeach, vegetable life. Chai, animal life. And Madaber. Oh, okay. Doimen, what's the doimen of the korban? It was the salt brought with the korbanos, the mineral aspect of korbanos. What was the tsemeach? The wine that was the nisochim, right? The libations. So we grow wine, which is tsemeach, and that wine, that grow grapes, now we turn into wine, and they were part of the chai, that's the animal. And Adam, Medaber, has to be an Adam who's makriv the korban. That's why korbanos are so powerfully connected to the existence, the continued existence of the physical world, which is datzcham. Because the korban contains within it each of those elements and elevates each of those elements to a state of elokus. HaKorbanos atzmam, shabai midatzach, again, datzach, that's the salt, the yayin, and the animal. Va'adam hamakriv, but there's also there has to be adam hamakriv. Korban can't sacrifice itself; it has to be elevated by something. Adam hamakriv. So mitzad echad, the adam hamakriv has to be part of the world of the korban. That's the aspect of adam that's mentioned in the Medrash, like the belt. But in order to truly elevate it, we have to be completely transcendent of the world, and that's the adam of the Zohar. That's the adam of the level of Uris, the Devekus of Uris, as opposed to simply the Devekus of Kelim. V'koyach b'karbonis l'kayim ha'olam, and the ability of karbonis to bring about the continued existence of the world. Al yadei shemakri ve'sam hu adam shemoved al mi'elam. That's coming from the adam who's completely separate from the world, completely transcendent of the world. The adam that's part of the world has to bring the korban. But the Adam, that's the same person, and because the same person is in two places at once, right? The same Yid, and the Adam that elevates the korban is that aspect of Adam that's shaykh to a temet veikim by vayal kechem. That's the Adam of the Zohar. Hu al yedei avedus Adam b'dargas ha'aris shibay. Okay. The Maamar continues. You have it. You have some free time over Pesach.
Thank you, Rabbi Kaplan.
A pleasure. Have an amazing Pesach. A kosher and freilich in Pesach. It should be freilich. Yes, it has to be kosher, but it should also be joyous.
To you as well.
The Seder, enjoy the Seder. It's hard work. The whole holiday is hard work, but enjoy it. It's all about Kabbalah Soul B'Simcha. There's a lot of Kabbalah Soul in Pesach.
Is Somek specifically wine, but it's also the wheat and barley that